Well, my friends, this is Jay, and I am back with part 2 of our Easy Cables and Easy Lace Sweater 101. I hope you have enjoyed the knit so far, and I had to kind of work out how I wanted to do the neckline, so I left over in the comment section in Jay's help box for you to work each panel how many inches up as you get to the top of the shoulders. We started here down at the bottom, and as you can see, I have worked up, and I want it on the back. You can tell that this is the back panel because there's only one row of lace on each side of the cables. So this is the back. And then I left enough, say about 2 inches before I'd reach the top of my shoulders in the back. Now, this is what we need to do. I had, like I said, I had to think of how I wanted to work the neckline in. Just for those who might want to know. Alright, here's the bottom of my sweater. And just for FYI information, I crossed my cable 7 times. 1, 2, I'll lay it down and keep counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now I'm on row 1 again and ready to cross the cables up here on row 1, following the same instruction that I worked the whole thing. But instead of, since I only have the 2 inches left, I'm going to stop and not cross the cables here. I'm simply going to stop, and first thing we need to do is count. Alright, now here's what we're going to do. If you're ready to go and to do this part, I want you to always start from the edge and count. Count in to your number. So for me it will be 34. So let's go 2, okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34. Right here. So this is where I'm going to put one of these red markers so I will know all these stitches belong to the shoulder here. Then I go over to this side. Don't ever start counting somewhere else. Always go to your edges because they usually are right or correct, okay? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34. Let's see, that's what's my number. Yep, my number. Well, the size I worked in real time, and I went up, I was up one size and I regular wear, okay? So I put a mark. That represents the stitches on this shoulder. Now everything else between these stitches, hopefully it's 37, if not, too bad. All we have to do is get the shoulders equal. The neck will take care of itself because we're going to put a big old collar. We have to have a lot of stitches. For those who watch when I put the collar on the crochet poncho, and I said you have to have enough stitches because as we get ready to, when we knit this collar, we're going to be doing the 1x1 ribbing, and as I've shared, cable stitches and rib stitches are automatic. The nature of them is to just pull in and to decrease, to just pull in. So you want to be able to have your head in there. So get the 2 shoulders with the numbers that I provided, and the neck will take care of itself. All right, now let me clear this and make sure go to the next step. All right, so I have knitted back across, and I am dropping or taking off the markers as I knit across. I've dropped the first marker. Now I'm just knitting over to where I have marked my neckline, and I put red markers right here. So I know when I get here, this will start the neck, and we're going to bind off. So I'm knitting across, and like I said, I'm just taking off markers that I don't need anymore. So I get to this mark and I just take that off. Okay, and then on over to my red marker. Let me pull it up. Hope I'm in the camera here. Okay, so I just knit. Now I'm up to the red marker that tells me this is where my neck, where I want to bind off. All these stitches all the way to the next red marker. So I have to, in order to bind off, you need to start with 2 stitches. So I'm going to knit 1 stitch on this side of the red marker. Then I'm going to knit the 2nd stitch. Can you see it? Now stop. Reach back and just pull the first one over the 2nd one, and I've bound off. Knit the next stitch. Take your time. Keep it loose. Reach back. I pull up a little bit. Bind off. I like to kind of stretch it out, okay? Go to the next stitch. Knit that stitch. Reach back and bind off. Okay, go to the next stitch. Reach back and bind off. Continue. Next stitch, you knit it, then reach back and bind off by pulling the 2nd one over the 1st one. Then you can take the markers off, these markers that we don't need anymore. Take them off as you go and continue across. Now I'm going to kind of pick up my little reach back and lift up and bind off. I stop. I kind of open them out a little bit. Okay. Continue. Across. Because I want to make sure that you bind off the last stitch. If you're new, sometimes you might not realize that you have 1 extra stitch to bind off. Okay, so let me just continue across. And stop every once in a while. Open it up. See what you have. Okay. Continue to bind off till we get to the marker that you've put in place to let you know I used the red one. So here it is way over here. Okay, I got to keep going. Stop. Check it. It's looking good. Nice and smooth. I see my marker coming up. I can get rid of this marker right here. I don't need it anymore. So I can get rid of that one. I'm looking for my red marker. Here we go. Oops, I need to get, ooh, I'm all tangled up. Let me get me some yarn. Make sure. Make sure I stay in the light. Oops, I dropped my stitch. I moved the thing. Let me just get that stitch. There it is right there. When I try to get me some yarn. Okay, so I continue to bind off. Reach back. And bind off. Okay, I see I'm up to my red marker. Reach back and bind off. Can you see that? I'm up to the place that tells me ends my neck. But watch, I knit that stitch, reach back and bind off. But look, I have one stitch left that still belongs to the neck. So you have to reach over and just go ahead and knit the stitch on this side of the marker. You knit it, and it will, then you can bind off that last stitch. Now I am done with the neck. Now, once I'm done with the neck, and I've bound off, now I just knit just like I did. Take that mark off. Now I can knit all the way across to the border on this side. Just like that, but I'm going to stop. Just show you what we have. So remember, if you're new, that one last stitch, you have to reach over and bar that stitch on this side to bind off. Now there's my neckline right there for the back of the sweater. Alright, now I'm going to continue on cross off camera, and then I'll come back. Then now we'll talk about the front. I'm trying to move it as quick as possible so that I can get it all done on this video. But there's your neckline, and it's all bound off. Oh, I just pulled all my stitches out. I was excited because I wanted you to see how pretty it looks. Okay, back in just a moment. All right, I am back. So, and as you can see, I have the front panel that we all should have up to a certain point. It's all worked. It's really pretty. The lace is pretty. The cable's just like the back panel. Now, on the front panel, I left a comment over in my comment section to try to stop about 4 inches before you reach the top of the shoulder. So from here to about where Bird is, say if that's about 4 inches. That was to give us room to figure out how to make or to work the neckline. And I have to work it myself. I have to do my own thing and then pull it out or redo it, whatever. So let me show you the easy way to walk you through it, and then we'll go from there. All right, first of all, the first thing, like the back, you should, on my back, I crossed the cables. It came to 7 times. Every time I crossed the cables, I just counted. So it was 7 times. Now, I am short. If you're tall, you probably crossed your cables maybe 8 times. Or a little taller, you may have crossed your cables in the back 9 times. So most likely, on the front of the sweater, your cables are going to be crossed 1 less time. So my cables on the front, it worked out to cross, and I crossed them 6 times. I had 7 on the back, I had 6 on the front, so that I can stop to get this neckline in and match the back. First thing we need to do, go ahead and get you some markers, something really that's going to stand out, and look at the number on the schematic, on the sheet that I shared. I won't go through and pull all that out again, but the sheet where you wrote down how many stitches for this shoulder and how many stitches for this shoulder. My number was or is 34. So again, I go right ahead. This is row 1. See, I'm ready. I always try to stop or be prepared to work or start something on row 1. So after I finished working the cable the last time, and then I worked up, now this is row 1. You see it? This is where I want to stop and go to the edge. I always count in. I counted my 34 stitches, and I put a marker so that I would see it. Alright, on this side it represents the shoulder stitches. On this side it represents the neck stitches that we will eventually bind off and pick up stitches later on. Alright, so I do that, then don't start counting somewhere else. Go to this edge. I always work from the edge in to get a good count. So then I count all the stitches in, and at my number 34 I put another marker. There it is, 2 matching markers, so I will not run past it so that I will see it nice and bright. Now I can walk you through this little section, and then I can do it off camera. Now remember, like on the back, we needed to clean up some of these stitches. Alright, what I want you to do, this is row 1, so I want you to work across this part of the lace. all the way up to this marker. Work the lace just like row 1, just like we were doing. When you get to the marker and you slide the marker, of course you can put another marker in that's going to slide the marker. Now you're going to just knit. We're cleaning up stitches. We don't have to do the cable anymore, but even though there's a little lace here too, it doesn't matter. You just knit, 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 knit all the way across to this marker. When you get to this marker, you will go back and work the lace as on row 1, just like you were working the sweater all along. When you turn the work, of course, you will knit the border, 3 little border stitches. Then you're going to purl all the stitches. Let me just turn it this way. Then you'll just be purling back. You'll just be purling all the stitches all the way across until you get to this border. Yarn back and knit it. That's 1 complete knit row, and we purl back. Okay? Now, we're going to turn around. We're going to do it a second time. Now I'm on the second time. I'm going to work all the way across, work the lace, stay in the pattern, work the lace on the right side, get to the marker, and knit, 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 knit again, all the way up to this marker. Work the lace after the marker and off the sweater. Turn the sweater, you're on the wrong side. Now all you have to do is knit the borders and purl all the way back, knit the border, stop. Now we're on the right side for the 3rd time. This is where I'll come, and then we'll bind off, and I'll show you some things that you need to have. All right? I'm going to work mine off camera, and I'll be back shortly. All right, so I've worked off camera, and I am on the right side for the 3rd time. This is where we want to bind off the neck and separate our fronts. Now, if you are new at knitting and you don't have all the exact right needles and things, this is the learning stage. Listen, I'm not about that. Once you get it, then you get the things that you need, and you follow the steps. So the easiest way to do this and keep it real simple, seasoned knitters, they have their own way of what they do at this point. I'm just going to walk you through just a very simple way for those that are new. All right. If you have some number 9 straight needles, we've been working this whole sweater in a number 9, US number 9. I use bamboo clover because that's just what I'm used to. And but if you have some old metal needle, it doesn't matter. See if you have some 9s. If you don't have some 9s, you got to look and see if you have a pair of 8s, pair of 10s. Don't go up any further than that. Just for this part of the sweater. And then you will know in the future what to have on hand to get ready to work your sweater. So I've got 2 sets of number 9 because we have 2 fronts. Or you can have some other circular needles. You can do, like if you have the 9/16 circular needles that you put the sleeve on, you can use those. So you don't have to have straight needles. You can have a 9/16. Oh, for this side to do the stitches, you can say, oh yeah, Jay, I do have that from when we did the sleeve. Okay, run over there and get your 9/16 for this one and this one. Okay, so, but you're going to need 2. All right, so here we go. I'm on the right side for the 3rd time, and now I want to work over. I could have had some of this done, but you just never know who needs to see what. Everybody learns different, but I'm the person, this is the place to come if you rather for me to show you than to sit there and tell you a bunch of stuff. So I'm just going to grab up my needle and I'm going to start knitting. Now I have to stay in pattern on this until we get to our neckline. So I just work it as I was knitting across. I'll do this first one. Let's see, can I get on across? So all I'm doing is just simply knitting from my long circular needle to this long straight needle. And if you don't have, you know, want to run out and try to spend money, see what else you have that you could do this little section on. It won't be that much of a problem, people. Then you'll know exactly what you need to get. Everything is established. The size, the sweater, the stitches, everything is pretty much established, and you'll be okay. You're in the learning stage. I can get rid, well, no, because we got to keep working. So keep that marker. See, now I'm up to the lace. Now I can tell that this is row 1 because I can tell that it's I need to yarn over, slip, slip, knit, staying in pattern. Okay, then oh, I didn't do my, oh, I know, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I was going to say, oh, I'm missing something. Wait, just back out, slow down, Jay. I just got a little excited. Stay in pattern. I need to knit 3. Okay. Okay. Now I can see the stitch better. This is not row. This is my second row. This is row 2, and I can tell by the way the stitches line up. The slip, slip, knit. You'll have there will be a yarn over where knit 2 together stitch. They'll just be sitting there right together. So I'm going to knit 2 stitches together. I'm on the row number 3, knit 2 stitches together, yarn over. Now I'm back in pattern. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Just follow your pattern till we get over to the next. Stay in pattern. Okay, so I'm up to the stitch again. I can tell that that's a knit 2 stitch. After I knit the 3, I can tell that's knit 2 stitches together, yarn over, go to the next, knit 3 stitches together, knit 3 stitches, 2, 3. Get a little yarn here. Okay. After I knit those 3, I can see where I have those knit 2 stitches together, yarn over, and we would normally have knit 3, but since we have already put our marker there, I know to only knit 2. 1, 2. Did you notice that? Now, this is what I was trying to get to make sure I just don't forget anything. Alright, so as you can see, I've made it over to my neck marker. That's the marker that tells me where the neckline, or the right there, that we're going to bind off. So this needle, these 2 needles now are separated from each other, these stitches. So I'm going to take a cap and put on this straight needle here. And now it can just hang out and just stay by itself until I'm ready to come back and work that. Now the next thing, we're going to bind off. Let me pull it this way and check and see if I'm on for that neck so that you can really see it. Okay. Let me stand up and move some of my yarn right quick. Okay. Got a lot of things going on here today. Painters coming to paint the house. The outside of the house. No. Alright, so I can go ahead. I'm going to remove this marker now because it's going to get in my way if I don't. Alright, so the yarn is still attached on this side. So what I'm going to do, or what I suggest you do, is to go ahead and pull off a lot of yarn and work it into a ball. In fact, that's what I'll do. I'll go off camera. I'm going to work it into a little ball and come back, and so you can see how it looks, and then you'll know how to set yours up. Be right back. Alright, now I got quiet myself down, calm down, got everything that I need, I believe. Alright, so while I was off camera, since we are separating, you're going to need some, separate some of your yarn into smaller little balls to kind of work as we do each front, each side here. Alright, so I've rolled off a nice amount of yarn that's connected to still connected to the needle, so when I get ready to work this side, I already have this yarn to draw from. Now I'll just lay that over here, let it roll over this out of the way. Now when I left, we needed to bind off. I had my marker here, like this, that told me where the neck stitches are between these two markers, and I need to bind off all these stitches. Alright, so I'm going to simply take, here's the yarn where I had cut it to make that ball. Alright, I'm going to go ahead. I can have a smaller double pointed needle that I use sometimes it makes it easier to bind off. I need to have 2 stitches. I need to start with knitting 2 stitches. So I'm going to knit a stitch just like this. Just wrap the yarn around it and then knit the next stitch. Tighten up. Then I'm going to reach back and bind off those stitches and then tighten up. Alright, now I'm going to continue to knit the next stitch, reach back, bind off. Knit the next stitch, reach back, and bind off. Keep it loose. Reach back and bind off. You're just knitting the next stitch, reach back and bind off. We'll take care of this little gap with this little tail when we get back and start to knit. You either have a gap on this side or a gap over there, so it doesn't really matter. But we'll take care of it. Nothing is lost or nothing's going to be crazy. I'm just trying to keep you going in the right direction so that you can keep things kind of straight in the flow of things. Keep things flowing so that you can follow easily. See, all I'm doing is knitting the next stitch, reaching back, picking up the stitch behind it, lifting it, and over and off. Then I kind of stop every few stitches and kind of pull and straighten it out a little bit. I'm working in this direction. Let's make sure I'm still on and in the light. Okay, do I need to? Yep, I'll keep going. Alright, so I knit the next stitch, reach back and bind off. Knit the next one, reach back and bind off. And you see it's so much easier with this little short needle. I'm not having to work and fiddle with a long needle for this bind off process. It just flows like butter. Okay. It's nice and it's warming up here, getting really nice in the daytime, but it's cool enough. If you just heard my heat, we have not turned everything off. So it just kicked on. So I'll speak up so that I can keep going. It's pretty enough and nice enough. We just have a lot of pollen here in the south. But yeah, we finally get the outside of the house painted. Needs a good paint job and had it power washed and all of that. It just worked out. Normally this time of year we would have a little snow or a little cold, you know, a week or two of bad weather, but so far so good. Right, Bird? Oh, we have so many birds because of all our shrubbery. Oh my God, those birds wake me up every morning. They just be singing and tweeting and going on. Oh, I want to put a pillow over my head. Such is life. Must be wonderful. Look, even the birds are taken care of. Alright, so I'm getting over towards the marker. Gotta keep going. Can you see it? Do I need to bring it any closer? All I'm doing, I'm kind of holding at a funny angle, but just bear with me here. You know what we're doing. I am binding off. So when I get up to that marker, I just need to remind you of something. Somebody's running a machine or something. That's all right. All right, so I'm up to the last stitch right before the marker. I'll speak up. Okay, and I bind off, but stop. This stitch, this last stitch, again, belongs to the neck. So I have to slide the marker, or you can just take it off if you want to now because we're getting ready to. And I have to bar this last stitch. It belongs to the shoulder, but I have to bar it. Go over here and use it. I knit it. Then I reach back and bind off the last stitch that belongs to the neck. And let me just stretch it out, put it back, make sure I'm in camera, let you see how it looks. This side, let's go. This side is on a separate needle. It has the yarn waiting for me. When I get ready, we've bound off the neck. So the next step is bring this one over. Okay. Alright, the yarn is still attached. See if I'm on. Yeah. Since the yarn is still attached, I can take whatever needle you have, whether it's a small circular or if you have straight needles. Back in the day, I used to knit a lot with straight needles. And I fell in love with the circular and I just never looked back. Alright, but now you got to get into pattern. You got to stop. Don't be in a hurry like I was a minute ago and then forgot where I was. But you're going to get back into pattern. Okay, there was 2 stitches. Remember over here, we didn't have the 3 stitches. We only had 2. So I used one to bind off and there's one. So when I look at this, I can tell, remember we're on row 2. I believe I'm on row. Oh, I got one more stitch right here. Here it is. Here's the second stitch. Okay, now there is knit 2 stitches together right there. So I'm going to knit 2 stitches together. I keep saying row 2, it's row 3 of the lace pattern. So I knit 2 stitches together, yarn over. Now you can see those 3 that need to be 1, 2, and 3. Stop, hold out. I can see those 2 stitches. I need to knit 2 stitches together, yarn over. This is row 3 of the lace pattern. So that we can finish. Oops. Okay, 1, 2, make sure I got all the stitches. Okay, 1, 2, 3. You have to knit those 3 that separate. Then there's the 2 stitches. I knit 2 stitches together. Kind of hard knitting at this awkward angle with straight needles. Yarn over and then knit 3 right before the marker. 1, 2, and 3. And I did leave that marker on because we're going to be working. So I slide that last marker. Now I'm just going to knit off. Now look, all you have to do to know how far to knit up, once we separate and we have this shoulder on this needle, well now, okay, I'm measuring, but I still don't know. Alright, you want to go up to that, at least that same number, or make it an even number. So right here, I'd start counting just like you did the back. 2, 4, 6, 8, counting the ridges, 10, 12, and you go all the way up, and I reached 48, just like I did on the back. But remember the little secret I gave you on another video? Because we have a bust line in the front of our sweaters. And this is not where we're putting, we're not increasing and decreasing and making an allowance for our bust. We're just knitting and the fabric comes out flat. So I gave you the idea if you would just go a little longer in the front. So if I reach 48, say here, I'm going to keep on knitting for a few more rows, and maybe, and in fact I kept on knitting till I had 48, 50, 52, and then when I got up here I have 53. So that is enough difference right there that's going to give me just a little more room in the front of my sweater when we get ready to sew. So my number for my back was 48 ridges. I stopped on the front of my sweater at 53 ridges on the side. And do you notice I kept going? Okay, well, when I got to 40, say when I got to 50 or so, I stopped. Remember, we have to bind off, we have to knit off and make all these stitches kind of, we have to smooth them out, make them all uniform. So I got to a point where I had to purl. I was on the purl side, so I purl back, then I knit across, then I purl back, and then I knit across again. Now look, this needle is pointing in the right direction. It should be pointing to this edge and not to the neck. So then I counted it and I had 53, and I thought, that's good. I put a cap on it. Now all I have to do is to go over here and hold on a minute. Okay, I'm back. I had a little interruption. Like I said, they are working, painting their house, and so I had to come back right quick, and this gave me a chance to share with you. When we left, also, for this side or this shoulder, I said, now remember that we need to start on the purl side. We had knit across on the front, bound off, and then we started working this shoulder. All right. So on the way back, we would pick up or start working the purl side. It's hard to remember everything. We're not working from a written pattern, so you do all kind of little things to help yourself. I just take some masking tape, I put an arrow in the direction that I'm going, and I put purl. So that when I come back, I go, oh yeah, I know where I am. I'm not confused or anything. The yarn is attached because I did the yarn on a smaller, just balled up some yarn so I could have it separate from the other yarn. Now watch. Also on this side where we started the bind off, remember when we started to bind off the neck? We left like, it makes a little gap. You're going to get a gap either on this side or that side, whichever the way you bind off. Well, on this side, so I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to go to somewhere right here, maybe by that, in that gap, not in, a stitch right there. Just right here on the edge. Now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pop that stitch. I'll go ahead and just put it on this needle. Now I'm going to knit the stitch from that from the neck edge, and the first stitch from the shoulder. I'm going to just make sure that you don't get the tail. I'm going to knit, because I knit the first and last stitch anytime I have an edge. Pull it tight. Now I put the yarn in front, and now I'm simply going to purl across. Like it's a little awkward for me because I'm using straight needles, but if you found your 9/16s, you're not having this problem. I'm just too lazy. Oh yeah, sometimes Jay's just like, okay. So I am purling across just like this. And I'm not going to take time to do all this on camera, but let's just go across a little bit to make sure I can stop in a safe place. Don't ever stop on a yarn over or something. Try to stop in a safe place. Like I wouldn't stop there. There's a yarn over there, so I want to go ahead and purl that and keep purling. And just go that. Yeah, we had some bees, and so they were all trying to get the right spray or get the people that are painting the house, trying to make sure there wasn't like a real big hive or something in there. But they were spraying, so that's why the extra talking. Okay, so there we go. We're going to go all the way across. Oh, I hate to... Here, let me see if I can just get across this row so I can... Now, they're talking, so I'm going to speak up. Yeah, maybe they'll go on. They're trying to solve our bee problem, so they... I know we have some carpenter bees, and they always come back to the same place every year. Okay, so here I go. I just wanted to get to this part right here. So when I turn, okay, since I knit the two together, I still should have the same amount of stitches that I had when I started. Now I will go back into pattern, and remember the little trick I said, as you knit across, if the yarn over is first, that means you're on row 1. If the yarn over is on this side, that means that is row 3. So now you'll know how to kind of figure out where you are as you work across, as you work this side up to how many ridges, whatever you wrote down. So my front, I need to go at least 53 ridges. But now there's always this little catch-22. Everything, since you have a right and left side, this side, in order to get the needle pointing in this direction to the edge, you may have to go one more row. So you'll see that when you get to it, and let me go ahead and knit off camera, and then I'll come back and we will be ready to work our 3 needle bind off. Just in case you haven't done it lately, now's the time so that we can put our front and our back panel of our cable sweater together. Alright, let me work off camera and I'll be back shortly. Alright, so there's my front. It's ready to go. Both needles are pointing outward. I have some extra yarn on each side, so I don't have to try to work with a whole big skein of yarn. I will be able to work on one shoulder and then the opposite shoulder. Alright, now real quick, let me just set up the back, and then we'll get ready and I'll show you the steps to the 3 needle bind off. Alright, so now I have arranged my back panel and my front panel so that we can do our 3 needle bind off. The first thing you're going to notice is that here's my back panel here, and I have the right side up. So we're going to, just like when you sew 2 pieces of fabric, we're going to put the right sides to facing each other. So here's the back panel facing up, here's the front, and I have it facing the back panel. So now we have our needles are both pointing in the same direction. I already had wound up some yarn just so I didn't have to carry around that large skein. It's a lot easier to work from a small ball of yarn, okay? And now when you look at it, it looks like there's a lot more stitches on the back than on the front needle. That's just because it's on this needle that's spread out. But at any time you feel that you need to go back and count your stitches to make sure you didn't drop anything or something, you should have the same number of stitches on this needle on the back and the same number on the front. My number was 34, depending on what was on your schematic. My number is 34. Now, 3 needle bind off. Let's get started. Right side's facing. I'm going to start here, and we have, let's just go ahead, we'll call this needle number 1. Let me just check one more time and see if I'm on. One time I had gotten off and I had to kind of start again. Oh, I said, oh my gosh. Okay, so we'll call this the front needle number 1. Then we have needle number 2. Well, if this is a 3 needle bind off, guess what? We need 1 more needle. Let's see if I can get one a little larger. Yeah, that's about the same. You can get one a little larger than what you're using, that's fine, or if you have a 9. But I'm just going to use, remember, I like to bind off with like a double pointed needle because it keeps it nice and loose. Alright, here we go. Alright, I have needle number 1, and I have some yarn attached. It doesn't matter which needle that the yarn is attached to. just as long as you have some yarn. I'm going to put my short needle into the stitch on needle number 1, and then I'm just going to go into the one on the first stitch right here. So now I have stitches on off both needles. Now watch, I'm simply going to take my time, go around. Now I'll take the double pointed needle and bring that loop through. Now go ahead and take that stitch off, and then bring it through the front needle and take that stitch off. Okay, that's the first stitch. We need to get 2 stitches to get the bind off process started. So here we go. I go into the next stitch on that first needle. Just go into the stitch. Maybe if I turn it more like this. Yeah. It's kind of hard trying to work on the camera. Okay. Then I go into the next stitch, the second needle. Alright, slowly I take the yarn around the needle, pull that loop through. Now take that stitch off. Pull that same loop through the first needle off and take that stitch off. Now stop. Okay, now you can just reach back. Take one of the needles, whichever is comfortable, reach back and pull that stitch over the first stitch. And you've bound off 1 stitch. Now I'd like to give it a little tug. Let me push that out of the way. Alright, let's go again. Alright, we go to the second stitch right there and right here. See that? Alright, take the yarn over, pull that loop through, and then off. Pull it through the next one, off. Excuse me. Then go back, stop. You have to stop. If you don't, you'll start just knitting across. I have done that several times. You go back and bind off. Okay, let's go again. Turn it under the first, the next loop on the first needle. Go up under the next loop on this needle. Now we're going to knit and bring that loop through and off. Then under and off of that one. Now stop, go back and pull that stitch over. You've bound off another stitch. Let's keep going. I haven't done this in a while. I guess because we've been doing top down, and this is the way I used to do all my sweaters, bottom up. So I was very familiar with 3-needle bind off. Now sock knitters are more, I don't know Kitchener that well because I just don't practice it. Put the needle in, put it in, but sock knitters, they're very proficient at the Kitchener stitch, and it seems to be a very pretty stitch too. But I don't know enough. I hadn't practiced it enough. Okay, and bind off. You have to go back and bind, have to do that part. Alright, now at first it's going to be slow going, but people, it's because I'm doing it on camera. It just looks fiddly or like, ooh. Okay, go in that so that you have the loop from each needle, but it has a rhythm just like everything else, and you will be able to just, whoops, I'm just binding off. Stop, that's the thing to remember, stop and go back. Lift the back stitch over the front and off the needle. If you drop it, just pick it back up. It's just so much easier working with this little, oops, my yarn split really bad. Wait, there we go. I think I've got it. Okay. Now tighten up a little bit. I'm going to do a few more and then I'm going to stop because I'm trying so hard to maybe get this on this video. Reach back and bind off. Once you ever get a rhythm, you'll have it. In the first stitch, into the second stitch, you knit that one, take it off, knit this one, take it off, reach back and just bind off. Okay, we got something going here now. Okay, back first stitch, next stitch, take the yarn, knit it, and take it off. Ooh, my stitches don't want to come up. Take it off. Bring it through the first stitch, take that off. Stop. Go back, reach back and bind it off. 1, 2, off, under, off, reach back, bind down. 1, 2, knit that one off, knit this one, knit this one, and off, and reach back and bind off. Okay, now let's stop for a second. I want to give you, I'm going to pull that up, that loop up, so I can give you a little bit of the da-da moment before I go too far. Hold on, just wanted to give you a little, okay, so now here, let me turn it to the right side and give you da-da! That's the da-da moment. That is a beautiful 3-needle bind off, beautiful seam that will have just a nice clean seam on the wrong side once I'm finished. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and finish this seam on off camera real quick, and then I'll show you how to flip. You just flip the other side, but I'll come back and make sure, and then we need to talk about picking up the neck, and well, we need to sew. I think that will be the next thing. I think we need to sew side seams. But ta-da, there it is. All right, back in just a moment. All right, so I went ahead and finished doing the 3-needle bind off on this side, this seam. Now I'm gonna hold it up so that you can see how pretty. This is the wrong side, so you have just a little, nice little. It's not flat, but you get this beautiful seam, very tailored look, very clean. All right, now when I turn it to the right side, let me just flip, not the whole thing, but let me just flip this side over. Hold on, here we go. Now let me just flip it over so that you can see it. Here is the complete seam. And look how pretty. Let me get in the camera range now. Look how pretty we have finished the 3-needle bind off. We have a nice edge on this side. Like saying, if there was any problems, it would wind up on the neck edge where we're going to pick up stitches anyway. So, but that's how you want it to look when you're done, when you're finished. All right, now for this side, I'm not going to go because we need to sew. So now watch. You're going to have to flip the sweater so that you are working. Same thing, but now I have the back on top, or the back needle, but the two right sides are facing each other. That's all you have to remember. Here's the front, here's the back. So now it will be, I hope I was in camera, here's the front, here's the front of the back, so they go face to face, and then you'll just pull the needle over. I have a ball of yarn over on this side, so I don't have to deal with the whole skein. Pull the needles so that so the points line up, and you will simply do the same thing we just worked on this side. All it takes is a little practice. Take your time. There's no rush. You can just look at the video over and over, and don't worry about trying to do it real fast. All right, now the next thing we need to do, I'm going to go ahead and do this one because I need to sew one of the seams. I want to show you how to sew one of the seams from the bottom up to leave space for the armhole. All right, let me do that, and I will be back shortly. Just take your time, and like I said, it's all right if you count your stitches, make sure you have the same number. If not, then you can always knit 2 together if you have 1 extra. Don't worry about it. You know, just try to put it on one of the edges, like this neck edge, as you come closer to this edge, because we're going to, like I said, pick up stitches there. All right, take your time. I'll be back shortly. All right, so I am back, my friends, and I have done as much work off camera so that I could get you up to a point. I know you've been waiting, but I didn't want to rush it, and I had to, you know, kind of make sure that everything was just like I wanted to share with you. We have shared how to sew before, but I wanted you to see this one side that I went ahead and completed. And so now we are going to be working with the seaming and adding. I decided to do a cuff style instead of the whole sleeve. So we'll kind of run through that. I've done it on several videos, and I will link that particular portion of any videos that I've done recently, just to save time instead of repeating over and over the things that we've covered. So let's move my camera a little bit. There we go. And back it back. Alright, so here is this pretty cuff that's working well because it's done in the 1x1 rib. Here's a nice seam. Now let's get ready and I'll show you how easy it is. I'll get you started on the opposite seam. Alright, back in just a minute. Alright, so I am back. And I want to go ahead and let's start sewing up the sides. And I'm going to try to make it as quick and easy as possible. The main thing I like to do is to go ahead, because sometimes, as you have seen in some of the sweaters, I go inch and a half, or sometimes maybe 2 inches, depending on the pattern, on the front side of the sweater, so that there will be positive ease in my bust line area. So in order to do that, I go ahead and go to the actual bottom 2 edges of the sweater that I'm going to seam. Now in knitting, we normally just put the 2 sides facing up right together. Now if I didn't have this border, then the 2 knitted seams would go together real smooth like that. Can you see that? But for this sweater, and a lot of sweaters, I like to add a border. It's just to have some positive ease and give you that, just that hint of extra. So this has a border. We have done some without deep borders. So what I want to do is, and just in case there's a question that might come up and say, well, Jay, everything is so kind of rumpled up. Could I steam it and then sew my side seams? I suggest not. I'm not a professional, or but if you steam each piece, or steam some of the pieces first, and you oversteam one piece and not the other, or you steam too much at the top and not at the bottom, your sweater's never going to go together like it should when you get ready to sew it. Something's going to be way off. So I like to go ahead and do all my sewing, put all my ends, do everything I can possibly, or if you can save the ends to the after you steam it, in case you have to do some little handiwork. But at least have all the pieces together. So, alright, I suggest just go ahead and work with it as is. I'm ready for this seam. So I like to go ahead and turn it up so that I can get these 2 edges right here, the 2 bottom edges, completely straight across as much as possible. So I'm going to take my yarn needle that I put my yarn on. I'm going to go in. I'm on the wrong side. I just pulled up the wrong side facing me. And then I go in this side. Now I'm going to pull this yarn through and leave leave a nice tail. So I'm going to leave a good little tail there, okay? And I'm going to look and see if they look. You want to try to get them as even as possible. And then when you steam them, if there's a little dip in there, you can get that out. Now I'm going to run the needle through one more time. And this time I'm going to come up on one side. I run it through again. And then I bring it. It doesn't matter which side. Just bring it up through to the front side of the work. So there's where I'm starting. Can you see that? Bump, bump, bump. Okay. So I came up on this side. So in knitting, we just simply go across the seam. We just kind of work back and forth. But I take small stitches, not real long ones. I just take small stitches and I go back and forth across the seam like this. So I'm on this side right here. You can see the yarn. So now I'm simply going to go right over here. And I like to do mine right on the edge since we don't have this line of crochet stitches. We have a border. So I'm going to do my seaming right on the edge of this side of the border. Then I'll go right here on the very edge of this side, go about the same length of the stitch. You just kind of, something you just have to kind of practice, that's all. And we have this border so you don't have to be worried too much. Then I continue to go right up. Just don't go long. I just don't try to do elongated stitches. And you don't have to pull it tight at first. Just kind of work in the stitches right on the very edge. Just pull enough so that you can see that things are going together. Alright, you see that? Alright, then I go right, maybe right. See, stand right on the edge. I go right there. Pull that. Go on this side. Pretty much in the same place. And I just pull that thread and go right into the next one. Or somewhere near the next place you want to put it. You just match it up as you go up the very edge. Alright, now that's the sewing part. So see, with this border, you really don't really see a nice seam as if when we don't have a border and we put the two knitted seams together. You get that real pretty. But this is a border, so this is a little different. This is for newer knitters, just to kind of get you into it and you know, just to kind of build your skills. Alright, now this is what I want to do next. You want to keep going up. We will get ready to actually pick up stitches. So let me show you while I'm sewing. You can have this ready when you come back. Let me just go up the side here, up to my mark. Okay, I'm going to continue to go up, and when we come back, you're going to need a number 9 16-inch circular needle. If you've done sweaters with me, this is what I use to pick up my stitches for my sleeves or cuffs. Alright, continue to sew up to the mark, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, I've sewn up to my marker. Okay, at the marker, so that I'll know where to stop. And I forgot to say on this particular threader, those that are doing, say, the smaller number, you should leave at least 10 inches, a 10-inch opening for your sleeve. I'm in the middle, so I left 11 inches. The next size, I would suggest 12 inches because you're taller or you're broader, and so you're going to need more space as we do the 1x1 ribbing and it pulls in. So all I want you to do is simply take your yarn needle, when you come up to where the mark is, just go through the fabric and pull the yarn through and go through a second time. Then take the yarn and run it through to the back. You can take your needle off after you take the needle and run it through so that it comes out on the back side of the fabric or the inside. You see that? And then drop that nice long tail. We want to make sure everything is right before we actually knot it. But just kind of take your needle and go through twice, 1, 2, to make sure it stays together while we're picking up stitches. Then you can take this marker back. I want to go ahead, we'll put a movable marker, but I want to know where that seam is in case something drops off or I get interrupted. I'll know where my seam, sometimes it's hard to see with this border. But now, do you see what I have? I have a sleeve opening. I have 11 inches, either 10, 11, or 12 inches, depending on what size that you're making. Now I'm going to take my number 9 16-inch circular needle. I went ahead and put a cap on this end so that my stitches don't fall off as I'm pushing them around and working. Okay, now we'll back out just a little bit. Alright, so now all I want to do is take my yarn. Now, I knit when I do my edges or my borders, I knit on every row. Okay, I knit the first and last stitch. So that means I always get this little gap. If you put your needle in, between each one of these little bumps, I get a little gap. See that little gap? And then there's a little You may not can see it close on mine, but you can on yours. There's a little bump. Then if I stick my needle in that little gap, you'll always get two. See those two strands at the top? Right there. Come out, go into the next little gap. So that's all we're going to do. We're going to start down here right by the marker, as close to the mark as you can get for that seam. Put your needle in, take the yarn, leave another tail. Just loop the yarn over the needle and pull the loop through on the front side, just like that. Nothing special, just pull it through. Stick your needle into the next little gap. See? Then I'm still holding the tail in the yarn. I go ahead and wrap it around the needle, pull that loop through. Now stop, and now you can let go of the tail. And the tail can go inside with the other yarn. Just stick it inside of that arm space. Okay, so now all we're going to do is start picking up, and you already have a pre-made little slot to stick this needle in. It's between those two little bumps. You have that space. Just make sure you go up under the two strands just to get a great connection. And all I'm going to do is go up and put the yarn around the needle, pull the loop through. We're just picking up stitches. So just make sure you pick, like I said, 10 inches, 11 inches, or at least 12 inches for the larger size. And now that should give you enough to just work all the way around. Alright, I'm going to pick up stitches all the way around, going into that little gap right there between those two little bumps. At one time, somewhere, someone had us trying to go in the bump. I don't know. I don't know. But this works, and it works beautiful. And you have a nice pickup of your stitches. Alright, pick up stitches all the way around, and I'll see you as we get close to the marker down here at the bottom, or at the seam. Okay, back in just a little bit. Alright, I have picked up my stitches. I've made it back to my marker, and as I get close to the marker, try to continue to keep picking up stitches. See, go up under the two strands, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I'm going to stretch it open to see if I can find one more place right there so that I don't leave a big gap between these last two stitches, so I can see a place right there. So I'm going to pick that up. Now I feel like I'm up to the seam in my marker, so now I'm going to put in a sliding marker, a marker that's going to move around as let's see, can I find one? As I'm knitting. Alright, now we are ready to start the 1x1 ribbing. We simply picked up all the stitches. Now we're going to start out with a knit, if you put on your marker, knit 1, then purl 1. Try to pull and see if you can close any little gaps. We've got enough little ends back there if we have a little gap. Sometimes it just, no matter how hard you try, knit happens. Oh, so in fact, let me back up. Let me just show you. Let me see, just on camera. Let's see, can I back up to that stitch I put on before the marker? That last stitch, it seemed like right here, when I went into that stitch, just do it here on camera, okay, when I lifted up, I pulled open this last stitch right there, it was going to leave a big hole. So look, I'm just going to reach down, go behind, maybe pick up one at the top, and maybe one back in the back somewhere, like that, so I don't pull it or stretch it so much. Let's see if I knit that one. Put the needle in. Okay, that's a lot better. Then I can put the marker. Now we're on the way to doing our 1x1 ribbing. After I slide this marker, I knit 1. I don't know why I'm so hyper. and tug at it, and then yarn in front, purl one. Tighten up anything that's kind of loose, yarn in back, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. And the reason this works so well, I think, for beginners, because the 1x1 ribbon, especially when we're doing it in the round, all we need to come out at the end is an even number. And if we don't have it, we just make it an even number. We add a stitch or take away, or whatever. So let me work around. I'm yarn in front, purl, yarn in back. You are to knit the stitch. And I will see you as we come to the marker, and we will be on our way to do this pretty cuff. Okay, if you get lost, go back a few stitches, knit, purl. So now I'm ready to knit. Okay, see you back at the marker as we work our way around this arm space, this little sleeve. Okay, back in just a moment. Well, I'm coming around the bend. Let's see here now. Knit, purl, knit. So purl. Now when I get close, and then yarning back, knit. When I get close to the marker, I just count it out. I just did a knit. So purl, knit. Okay, the reason I do that because on this side of the marker we started with a knit stitch. So in the round, the 1x1 ribbon has to end with a purl stitch. So let's see. Let's go back and see if there's anywhere I can pick up or knit 2 stitches together or something. So let me just back. This is just how you do it. But this is a great one for newbies or, new knitters or returning knitters who just need a little more confidence and just don't like a lot of hassle. People just want to knit. Nobody wants all that hassle. Do this, do that, So let me see what I can do. Maybe we can make a stitch. I'd hate to knit 2 together. I'd rather add 1. So I had, let's go back. All right, here's a knit, purl, okay? Then a knit, purl, knit. So I've got to see, how about right here? I'm going to see if I can reach down and just go up under a strand, pick up a strand, and I go in through the front. If I pick up something, I go in through the front, and we just made that stitch. So now that's going to be, or I could knit into the front and the back of a stitch. We could do that if you don't want to pick up something. But I go knit, purl. Now I'm going to knit the one I just picked up, then yarn in front, purl, and then knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and look, I'm going to end with a purl stitch. So yarn in front right before the marker, purl, and now we start the long road home, knitting it around the 1x1 ribbon. We have the right number of stitches, and I go start again. Once I slide the marker, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. You can read your stitches now. You can look at them. You can see that's a purl. All right, so now you're going to continue around. Now, I do have to, true confession, I had already worked this other sleeve, this other cuff, so I may be off a couple of stitches, and I can easily take it or loose because I have not finished anything. But I wanted to make sure that I got everything in here, so I was, kind of going a little faster than maybe I should. But there's how the cuff looks. Now, I will go over steaming and all that at the end, But that's how the cuff, and I suggest 4 to 5 inches depending on how long your arm is. If you got a longer arm, you might want to take this out 5 inches, maybe even 6. You know, you want to keep just going around, knitting in the round, the 1x1 ribbing. It's the easiest sleeve or cuff you can do and not have to worry about decreasing, because it decreases itself. So I have 4, you may want 5, or you may want 6. Okay, so now continue to do that, and guess what? When I come back, we will be at the point of the sweater. The whole point of the sweater is to put in a beautiful cow neck collar for this opening here. And you see we have a large opening because we're going to be doing the 1x1 ribboning again, and it's going to just shrink that neck right on up. Now if you just watched the video where I put the 1x1 ribbing on the crochet poncho, we're just going to do the exact same thing. So I'm not going to take a lot of time on it because I've already done that video, and I can put in the time. I can time stamp that one. But I just want to make sure you connect and get started right, and then it's just round and around and around we go. Okay, so I'm going to finish up my sleeve because I don't want to have one sleeve syndrome. I want to have it done so I can do my neck. All right, take care. Enjoy the journey and learn and, grow as you go. Back shortly. All right, my friends, I'm back and we're in the home stretch. This may be just a little longer, but I'm going to get it on this video so that you don't have to wait for a second one. Thanks for holding for me. I'm telling you, I wanted to make sure this one is right because we can build on this pattern, this design, as we go forth and doing more cables. Let's take a look at what we have so far real quick off camera. I was able to make sure I shared with you how to measure up and pick up stitches for both the arm space. I decided not to do, I didn't really want to do another sleeve, so I'm showing you this pretty little cuff, the afterthought cuff, just like I have the afterthought sleeve. If you do the 1x1 ribbing, there's nothing to it. You just pick up and go round and round. Save yourself a lot of trouble and a lot of time. If you want a cuff that folds back, you just keep going longer and longer until it gets to the length that you can fold it back, like like a cuff. But this one's not that long. I did 4 inches. Longer arms, you might go 5, or real long, or if you're tall and broad, you might have to go 6. Okay. All right, we did a nice hem. We're just doing a quick recap before we go right to the neck. We did a nice hem, and I also, shared with you, how to measure. But you could count. Remember our little ridges? You can count up so far for 11 or 12 inches, however many inches you need to go up. You can just count and see if you have the same number, and then use it on that side. Everything in my sweater designs pretty much are dimensional, and my numbers are easy, and I try to do easy count. Find something in the sweater to count, so that I even counted at the end. I decided to even count my stitches. I just took a double pointed needle and I just went through and I counted every little. I just popped it in there. 1, 2, 3, and I had 18 rounds, and then I did a bind off. You will bind off in pattern. We have done that before. If you need an update, I will look through, see what I have. I know I have something where I can put up in one of the shorts or something on binding off in pattern. All right, so with that said, that's done. Looks great. I stuck my arm in it. It looks nice. But now we still have this big hole. So I'm going to ask you to get your number 9 needles out, a 29 in length. Or if you're a seasoned knitter and you have more needles, I am going up to a US number 10. I just want my collar to be a little thicker or a little I don't know, drapier or fluffier. I don't know what you're gonna call it, but I'm just gonna use this number 10. It's a number 10, and it's about 29 or 30 inches in length. So the length is about the same, so that we can make the circle. But I'm just going up. So if you run out of your number 9s, then grab up a number 10. All right, so here we go. We got all of this. Everything's done. You know you can put your head in it. And hopefully you can put your sweater on. You know, you put it on. So you see this big old space we have. All right, let me take some of the markers out that we had used before. We don't really have to have those. But I will put one over here. I like to start on the shoulder when I'm going to pick up. We have picked up stitches before. So I'm going to just rotate the sweater. And I'll just put a marker, just remind me this is the shoulder where I'm starting. So here's my shoulder seam right there. And we are going to just simply start picking up stitches. This is just a repetition of what we have done over and over. But it's always good to get you started. I remember wherever I can work between those little bumps, because I knit the first and last stitch, so it always leaves those little ridge bumps, and there's always a little gap in between with 2 strands of yarn. Can you see that? Okay, so I can just, why make another place when I can just stick my needle there, loop the yarn over the needle. You don't have to tie it or anything. Hold on to the yarn and the tail. And just bring the loop through. We just did it on the cuff. And go to the next one. Yarn over. I'm still holding the tail. After I take a couple stitches, then you can drop the tail. It just locks it in. Lay it out of the way so you don't knit with it. And then up under the next, in the next little space, between the little ridge bumps, wherever you have them. If you don't have them, then you have to make a stitch. You just have to make the hole, make some kind of little opening. So now I'm just going to pick up, and since I'm doing this, I really don't have to count until we actually start, just like on the cuff, actually start the ribbing and see if we have, we need knitting in the round, the 1 by 1 rib. You want an even number. So we don't have to worry about that for a while. We're just picking up right now. Make sure you go under 2 strands wherever you put your needle in. It's just a better connection. Spread it out a little bit so you can see what's coming up, what you can use. There's something there. Okay, now we're going to get to the front. Now, if someone had left their live stitches on, okay, they could have just transferred those live stitches right onto this needle. You know, say if it was on a needle, they could have just slid them over to this one, but we didn't. I didn't do that, so I bound off, so that our new knitters would know exactly what to do. Now you can go. Now you can look at. This is why I don't do the slip stitches much, because sometimes I can't see those stitches on top as well as I can find that little hole. But if you turn your yarn up so that you can see the top, you'll see that V, which people that slip their stitches always love to see. And then you stick your needle in there. It's under 2, and then pull the loop through. Go to the next one. See, there it is. Sometimes they stand out, but if it's real small, sometimes it can. Or if the yarn is real dark, I just can't see it. It has nothing to do with, you know, which one is better. It's just how old you are and what you can see. But you see, I'm just going up under each one, because reason I'm not, like on some sweaters we might skip a stitch every once in a while for some reason, you know, to draw the neck. Well, on this, if you remember the other video where I added the collar onto the poncho, the crocheted poncho, this winds up being just a big long tube. We're going to knit in the round and make this long tube. And as the tube grows, because you're going to have to knit it for quite a few inches, I think on that one we went up, I tried to get you to go up to at least 12 inches. As it grows, it pulls in tighter, tighter, tighter. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm going to take a... Alright, I'm just going across all these stitches in front. It seems like there's going to be too many stitches, but once we start the ribbing, you'll see how it starts to pull in, and look, it will be nice and drapey. Okay, let me go across a little bit more, at least to the opposite seam over here, and then I'll come back. I just need to check my camera before I go too far and nothing's on there. Alright, I'll meet you at the opposite seam. Okay, so I've made it to the opposite seam. As you can see, I have a nice pickup of stitches. You can see where I went across the front where the cable was. See, we relaxed those cables. We didn't cross the cables, so that's going to make a nice place for the collar to lay. And I didn't have to worry about, you know, where the cables crossed, trying to pick up stitches there. Alright, so now I'm at the opposite seam. And of course, now I'm ready. Let me just kind of rotate it a little bit. Now I'm just going to continue on across the back. And of course, we relaxed the cable in the back, so you're going to get the same nice pickup because we did a bind off edge. And then once we reach this marker over here, just to remind me, this is where I started. I put a marker. And guess what? We start the 1 by 1 ribbing. As soon as we get here and we get to this first stitch, and we put a sliding marker, a marker that will move. We slide the marker, and then we're going to knit, then purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, all the way around. And then I'm going to meet you there to make sure that you know to end. Since we start with the knit, you have to end with the purl. If you don't have the right number, just add one. That's why the 1 by 1 is so great for beginners learning necklines and sleeves and things like that. Alright, I'm going to continue to pick up, and I will see you. I probably won't come back at the marker. When I get to the marker, like I said, I'll put a marker to slide, then start with a knit, then a purl, knit, purl, okay. And I'll check back in. We are on our way. Well, my friends, I am back so that we can check in one last time so that we can bring this one to the end. And then, of course, I'll do a finish, wear it, and do a finish video a little later. But let's go right to it. As you can see off camera, I have worked the neckline, had started working my beautiful cow collar, and it just amounts to a 1 by 1 rib tube. As you can see, we've done that before. And like I say, you're just working around just like you did the cuff. We've gone through that. And you're going to need at least, to really make it stand out, anywhere from 12, if you're taller, just go till you're almost exhausted. No, at least 12 inches and a little more if you wanted to. And see if you get a nice roll down. Now, let's talk about the main thing, though. After this, let me think, was this all we had to do? We had to finish everything. Let me just turn it over, flip it over, and show you the back real quick. You can see how it looks. Just like that. Isn't that pretty? Nice and neat and clean. Look at the nice, look at our 3 needle bind off seams. Looks real pretty. It's almost, you could almost, well, not almost. We're going to use this. If you follow me step by step and you get some numbers and this fits you, and thank goodness, hopefully you took my suggestion to go up one size. As you can see, the cables eat up a lot of fabric. Now, the main thing before I leave you is how to block this. This is what I want to share with you. And then, like I said, I'll do a finished video and come back and wear it. When you get ready to block, whatever your fiber content is, You know, if you wet block or steam it, do not block or spread the cables or things out this direction. Do not block your sweater that direction. What you want to do, if you're going to wet block, you simply do just like you always do, but block the length of the sweater. Block it out and pull it, get the bottoms lined up, pin it, do whatever you do as you're blocking other sweaters. And when you block it this direction, then the cables are going to stand out and pop and be elongated and just look really pretty. Let me get back over here and see if I'm showing you. Okay, yeah. So you can see okay. See how that looks? I was trying to check my mirror thing. Alright, so you're going to block it. Now, for those who maybe don't have wool or something, merino wool or whatever, and you're going to wet block, but you're going to steam it. I just have store-bought yarn, so what you want to do is turn the whole garment inside out and do the same thing, but you will steam it from the wrong side. Of course, all your ends have to be weaved in. You know, you want everything done, and of course you're going to steam it in the same direction, lengthwise, not width, or you're going to just lose all your cables and they'll go flat. And no, you want to go lengthwise, stretch it, do a little bit. You know, on our yarn, or if it's store-bought yarn, you just steam one section. Try not to ever steam the ribbing of the bottom ribbing, or your, you know. But now we will, and I've shared with you before, lightly steam this neck to get it to relax, so that when we wear it, it will drop. It will fall in the front and become very, very fluid. It will just be so pretty, very drapey. And you can do that also on the wrong side. You can also kind of lightly pull your cuff. You're not trying to, you're just pulling it out. Steam it, pull it just a little bit, or spread it just a little bit. Not much. You do not want to lose the ribbing. That's what makes this so pretty. And you definitely don't do this. The only thing, sometimes this little part right here in the front, so it won't roll up anything where we did the where the cable started, on the wrong side, you could lightly steam and hand press this. Let it cool and then move on to another section. But you're blocking or stretching and steaming in this, the lengthwise of your sweater. And let's see if there's anything else. Let me flip it back over and see if there, and of course you're going to just bind off your neck. Make sure you bind off in pattern. If you can't remember, I'm sure I have a video. I'll make sure it's up that you can see. If you hear a little noise, they're painting outside of our house, and I got to get this video done and out to you. I hope everyone that celebrates Easter had a wonderful Easter. I had to take my time because this, I want this pattern to be, I want this pattern and these numbers and all the things that I've walked you through step by step to be something that we can go back and use. Just put another cable in. Just put another design in. And like I say, hopefully you took the suggestion and went up one size to accommodate the fabric and the cables, the pulling in, and the ribbing, and you're going to hopefully get a nice fit. Alright, let me think. Is there anything else? I can't think of anything else. That is complete. Thank you so much for waiting. Thank you so much for giving this a try. I am so blessed to just to have you as part of, I read somewhere, call it a tribe, my tribe. Okay. So I do have some things coming up, and spring is here. I wasn't going to do anything springy, but I think I may change my mind. Spring is here and I'm beginning to feel a little better. All right, this is Jay. To all my friends, everyone, everywhere, every size, I wish you happy knitting, and I will see you soon with another beautiful project that I hope you will like. Take care. Bye-bye.